everybody, in today's video I'm going to be finishing up my 20,000 mile maintenance. I got my new transfer pump so I can do the automatic transmission fluid in the transfer case, so that's going to be the first thing I do. And then I'm going to be doing the air filter for the engine and the air filter for the cabin, and then lastly the windshield wipers. So I'm going to get right into it and just start with the transfer case right now. All right, so we are right in the middle of the truck looking forward. This is the transfer case's skid plate. There's the fill plug, and then the drain plug is right down here. You can't quite see it because this is in the way. This skid plate is held on with 4 15mm bolts, so the first thing we gotta do is get those off. These two are slide-ons, so you don't have to take them all the way out, because once those are off, this is gonna slide that way and come down. This is a beefy skid plate. Okay, fill plug, drain plug. I'm going to go ahead and loosen the fill plug just to make sure it's not seized in there. I can't imagine that it is. Always do the fill plug before you do the drain plug because you don't want to empty the fluid out and find out you can't put more fluid in there. And then all you need is a 3/8 inch drive wrench. This is my torque wrench, but it's going to work for what I'm doing here because it's 3/8. But any 3/8 bit will fit in here. And it's loose, just like I expected. And that one's not too tight either. So I'm going to get my bucket in place and then take the fill all the way out and the drain all the way out, let it empty, and put the new stuff in. This is not a very hard thing to do. It should not take very long. All right, it's definitely a little bit dark, not terrible. And I don't see any metal on this. I don't know if this is magnetic or not, but it looks pretty clean. Still glad I'm doing this at the 20,000 mile mark. Okay, it's about done dripping. I have my Teflon tape that I put back on here instead of plumber's thread sealant because I can't find what I have, and this stuff is definitely going to work. This is not under a lot of pressure, so shouldn't be an issue. And I'm just going to go ahead and get this threaded back in. Then I'll clean up the, actually I'll clean the threads on the inside a little bit with this if I can. It's just going to keep dripping, but it's always good to get what you can out of there in case there's any dirt or debris in the threads itself. All right. Get it started by hand because you don't want to cross thread it. Then I'm going to grab my torque wrench, and it's set to 133 inch-pounds, which there's 12 inches in a foot, so that's the same as 11, maybe a little more than 11 foot-pounds. So I'm just going to do this until it beeps at me and tells me I'm there. All right. That's it, one solid beep. It was going on and off for a second, but when I went back and put even pressure, I was where it needs to be. So now I'm gonna get my transfer pump the new fluid in the top, and then we should be good to go to put the top one back in. See a little bit coming out, so I'm gonna do a couple pumps to see if it's actually flowing out now. It looks like it is. Yep. All right, same thing on this one. Got my Teflon tape on there. I did about 4 turns around it. Just gonna get it started by hand. Make sure it's threading correctly. And turn my torque wrench back on and do the same thing on the top one. All right, gonna call that good. And put the skid plate back on after I wipe everything down a little bit, but we are all set here. All right, everything's tight. We're good to go. Pull this camera out of here and clean up. Okay, transfer case is done. Fluid is pretty dirty, but not terrible. Definitely doesn't look silvery, doesn't smell burned. So I think we got it at a good time. Definitely early, it could have gone longer, but preventative maintenance saves you money in the long run. All right, gonna go on to the windshield wipers. So I'm gonna start the car up. I'm gonna get it off the ramp so it's down a little bit, and try to lock the windshield wipers straight up because they do not come out when they're all the way down. You can manually pull them up, but I'm just gonna try to get them when they're straight up, and it's a really easy thing to change out once they're done. So we'll get going. Next on the maintenance schedule is windshield wipers. I was just doing stuff with the transmission fluid, so I wanted to make sure my hands were really clean before I touched anything, so I used my hand cleaner. This is Tubble Towels. It's kind of like that orange stuff you can get at auto shops and stuff. It's got like some pumice and some citrus. It does a great job, and then I use dish soap. So my hands are clean. I'm ready to do this. I'm gonna bring the camera in and show you how these actually come off and you put the new ones on. It's really pretty simple. On your driver's side, you've got a 24-inch blade. On the passenger side, you have a 17-inch blade. And if you try to use one that's a little too big for the passenger side, from what I hear, it might actually hit some stuff. But that's just one comment that I read, and maybe I actually misread that. So manufacturer's spec size, 24 and 17. I'm going with Rain-X just because I've had them in the past and I like them. They have a bunch of different options on here. You can take certain parts off as you need to. It comes with all of them. But what I'm going to do is take the old one out. So there's a little silver button or a little black button on here, and I'm going to pull this up, press that button and slide it up and just get it all the way out. And then look at this thing and see there's obviously more on there than I need right now. So I'm going to start taking some of these different parts off of here. All right, so now I'm down to what looks pretty similar. I do have this cap thing. I might leave that on and see if it needs to come off. But basically, you just kind of, there's little designs on here. You just kind of push where you got to push. There's little latches that hold all this plastic stuff on there. And then slide it right back in. Oh, that blue thing has to come off too. Lots of extra stuff on here. All right, now we're down to the bare bones. Clipped in, and then that clips back down. So it's hooked in here. Next up, air intake, got the hood up, so I'm going to bring the camera in and show you what I'm taking off. This is really easy, just a couple of clips, you lift it up, replace the filter. So let's get to it. I'm going to take this clip down and that clip down, see if there's clips in the back or not. All right, so just getting the clips off the front is not going to be enough. So I'm going to take this wire harness off of here. I'm going to loosen this, and then there's one down here as well. I'm going to loosen that. And now we should be able to get this cover all the way off. There we go. You could probably do it with all that stuff on there, but I mean, they're both flexible. They both move a fair amount. It's not too hard to get them off though. So now there's going to be a direct replacement. And it's not that dirty, but definitely a little bit dirtier. So I might get a compressor and blow from the back to see. There's also stuff on the inside there and a bunch of crap in there. So I'm actually going to go get a vacuum and clean out what's in there. All right, so we got the debris and everything out of there. I'm just going to put this right back in. So the filter gets pushed down and there's 3 holes, like rectangles in there. And what fits into those are the little spikies right there. So what I'm going to do is put the back end of this in, slide those into those spots. All right, so I've got the back where it needs to go. It's in there. I got the front clips back on. The air filter is seated properly. The rubber gasket is all the way around. So I'm going to plug in this sensor right here. And then I'm going to tighten, once I get these back on and in place, I'm going to tighten the 2 hose clamps and we're done with the air filter. Okay, everybody, that is the engine air filter. Not too hard. There's 2 little clips in the front. And then I took off the 2 air hoses. You might be able to get away with not doing that, but it's easier just to be able to take this thing all the way off. And that just uses a flat blade screwdriver, or looks like maybe a 3/8 or 5/16 socket, but you just have to measure it and figure out which one it is. Take those 2 hoses off, and then this thing comes right out. Put the new one in, put this back on, you're good to go. Tighten everything up, put your sensor wire back in, and all done. So now I'm gonna head inside and do the cabin air filter, which is behind the glove compartment. The cabin air filter number is Foxtrot Papa TAC 93, or Mike Bravo 3 Zulu TAC 19 November 619 TAC Alpha, whichever one you need, or just again, look up your truck and see what goes in there. This does show an airflow direction, so we gotta make sure we do that correctly. I'm gonna drop the glove box here, and I have a damper on here as well, so I'm actually gonna pull that off also. So to get the glove box out, it's pretty easy. These things just get pushed in and it comes right out. And then I have a damper on here that I got from Signature Luxe. You probably won't have one of those unless you put one on yourself, but it's pretty easy to get this thing out. And now actually we got to get down below here, and you probably can't see where the filter is, but there's just a big flat box right up here. I'm going to grab the camera and show you in just a second. Glove compartment is down and out of here. I took my little damper off and I actually got it off the hooks as well, so it's not just flopping down. And then you look in here and you can see on the driver's side, it's something that actually goes in here, so you can't pull that out. On this side, you actually have a little pinch clip. So I am going to grab that and pull this thing out. So pinch these, it slides right out and then comes out this way. And now I'm going to pull this out, and replace it with a new one, and it looks pretty gross, so I'm glad I'm doing this. Just to point out, the flow is down, so I'm going to put the same one in with the flow going down. We can look at it. It is pretty freaking dirty with a lot of gross stuff in there. So throw the new one in. Again, airflow down, says Ford Motor Company over there. I'm just going to put this back in there and then slide this back in. It's about as easy as it gets. That's snapped in. I'm going to put my glove compartment back on. We're done. So for the glove compartment, these things down at the bottom are not perfectly round. They're straight on two sides and rounded on the edges. So you have to go at a certain angle, because if you look at the hooks here, there's a smaller side and then a circle there. So if you try to go straight down on it, it's not going to work. You got to go at the angle of those things there. So right about here, it goes right on, and now it's in there. But if I try to pull it here, it doesn't come out. You got to come down to there, and then it slides right off. So that's just one little piece of, little trick there. And then I'm putting my damper back in, just snaps back, and then it's in there. So all of our stuff is done now. All right, everybody, part 2 of my Ranger Raptor 20,000 mile maintenance is done. Changed the cabin air filter. It's a little bit dirty. Changed the engine air filter. Not terrible, but definitely due for a change, probably in the next 5,000 miles, so I just knocked it out now. Changed out my wiper blades. These things probably could have gone for another month or two. They're streaking a little bit, but I just wanted to put some new ones on because it is starting to rain a lot more here in Virginia. I did the transfer case fluid today. It came out a little bit dirty. Ford recommends 30 to 60,000. I'm at 20,000. It definitely could have gone another 10, but I'm happy getting it done now. I didn't see any like silver particulates in there, or it didn't smell burned or anything. So I think it was still really good. And I didn't notice any weird shifting in the transfer case going into 4 low, 4 high, things like that. Yesterday, I did the engine oil filter, put a Ronin drain plug so that's easier next time, and I emptied the catch can and was surprised at how much oil came out of that. So if you don't have a catch can, look into it. UPR makes a good one. There's a bunch of companies out there. I went with UPR, and all of that oil that I dumped out of my catch can would have gone right back in to the intake system upstream of a turbo. So it would have been going through a turbo, through the charge pipes, through the intercooler, up into the intake. If it makes it that far, gumming up your valves. So just keep that in mind. Look into a catch can if you're interested. I also did the front and rear differentials yesterday, and I will say of all the stuff I did way ahead of the recommended schedule, that is one that absolutely could have waited. I did it because I was curious. I wanted to see how bad it was, and the fluid itself came out pretty much like new. It looked very similar to what was going right back in. The magnets on the drain plugs did both have some metal particulates on it, but it was not caked on there. It was not a crazy amount, and there was definitely room on that magnet for more. And the magnet was doing what it was supposed to. It was pulling those particulates out of the oil, so it wasn't going back in between the gear and just chewing itself up. So I really think that could have waited, and that was the most expensive fluid of all of this. So that was $200 worth of gear oil. 5 quarts at $40 a quart. Everything else was for all the other things I did. If you don't count the windshield wipers or the Ronin drain plug, that added up to like $110 worth of stuff. So you could do the transfer case, you could do the oil, you could do your filters for like $110, $120. Add in windshield wipers, those were $70. Add in the Ronin drain plug, that was another $60. And I really think it's worth it if you change your own oil, because it is super messy. With that big drain plug that comes in it, the oil comes out so fast, and it is, I mean, I was expecting it and I still spilled it everywhere, even though I had a bucket right up against it. So that's it. Hopefully this is helpful to you guys if you're looking to do any of this stuff and you're not quite sure how to get to it. That's why I try to get zoomed in as much as I can and go through it in detail, and that's why these videos are a little bit longer. Feel free to play it at 2 speed or do whatever the heck you want. All right, guys, cheers.
It's over!